You fasted for hours, you did it right, and then you ate one thing and your body treated the entire fast like it never happened. Not because you broke your fast, because of how you broke it. The frustrating part isn't that the food was bad. The frustrating part is that it's usually the food most people consider the healthy choice. The exact kind of thing you'd recommend to someone trying to lose belly fat. Fixing this doesn't require a new protocol. It requires understanding one thing about what your body is doing in that specific window, and once you see it, you'll never think about breaking a fast the same way again. Look, I've been there. 16 hours in, stomach quiet, feeling like you finally cracked the code. And then you eat something reasonable, something that sounds right, and by the afternoon, the scale hasn't moved, the energy's flat, and you're back to wondering what you're doing wrong. I watched that happen to myself for weeks before I understood what was actually going on, and I've watched it happen to dozens of guys since. Not because they were being lazy, because nobody ever explained to them what their body is actually doing in that specific window right after the fast ends. Once you see it, it clicks. And it's one of those things you can't unsee. Here's what's happening inside your body during a fast, and stay with me on this because this next part is what makes the mistake obvious. Around the 12 to 14 hour mark, your insulin levels have dropped low enough that your body finally gets the signal it's been waiting for. Your fat cells open up. Fatty acids enter the bloodstream. Your liver starts converting them into usable fuel. Think of it like a vault that just unlocked after hours of the right combination. The fat is out. It's circulating. It's ready to be burned. But here's where it gets interesting, and where most guys accidentally slam that vault shut without realizing it. Your body has a security guard with a very simple rule book. One rule, actually. The moment food arrives and insulin rises, even slightly, he locks the vault. No discussion. No exceptions. Doesn't matter that you put in 16 hours. Doesn't matter that you were this close. Vault closes. And here's the part that nobody tells you. It's not just about whether you raise insulin. It's about how fast and how high. Because that determines whether the vault closes for 20 minutes or for the next 4 hours. So the question isn't whether you break your fast, you have to. The question is what you eat first, because that first food sets the entire metabolic tone for what follows. And most people are getting this completely wrong with foods they genuinely believe are helping them. Here's the trap. And honestly, this one still gets me when I think about how long it took to figure out. Most people breaking a fast reach for something that sounds exactly right. Fruit, a smoothie, oatmeal, Greek yogurt with honey, maybe a protein shake with some banana blended in. These aren't junk foods. In almost any other context, fine. But in the post-fast window, some of them are about as useful as throwing water on a fire you spent 16 hours building. Sound familiar? I bet you've done this. I did it for weeks. The issue is fast-absorbing carbohydrates, sugars that spike insulin immediately and hard. And here's the part that catches everyone off guard. Natural sugars do this just as effectively as the processed kind. Your body doesn't read labels. It reads glucose. A cup of fruit juice after a fast can spike insulin as sharply as a can of soda. A banana-based smoothie, even with protein powder, can trigger enough of an insulin response to halt fat oxidation within minutes. The fatty acids your body spent hours mobilizing get repackaged, sent back to storage. The frustrating part, and I mean this isn't that the food is bad, it's that it's usually the food you chose because you were being smart about it. The healthy option, the one you'd recommend to someone else. And it was working directly against you the whole time. You didn't just pause the burn. You reset the clock. And there's a second thing happening in that window that makes this even more important. I'll get to it in a second. But first, the protein question. Because a lot of guys here avoid insulin spikes and immediately start treating protein like the enemy. It's not. Protein does stimulate some insulin. Pure whey isolate, for example, causes a moderate response. But here's the difference that matters. Protein also triggers glucagon. That's the hormone that works in the opposite direction. It tells your body to keep releasing stored fuel. So even though protein causes some insulin response, the net metabolic effect is far more favorable than carbohydrates in this window. Honestly, this is one of the most misunderstood things I see. Guys cutting protein out of their post-fast meal because they're scared of insulin, and then wondering why they're losing muscle along with fat. A plain protein shake, whey isolate, no added fruit, no oats, no honey, is a completely reasonable fast break. The problem isn't the protein. It's what you put with the protein. That's the detail that changes everything. Now, that second thing I mentioned, the part about the window that makes this more important than most people realize. The post-fast window isn't just about whether you spike insulin or not. It's about what your gut is doing in that specific moment. After an extended fast, your digestive system is essentially in a sensitized state. The first thing you put in sets the table. It influences how your gut responds to everything that follows in that eating window. High-sugar foods in this state don't just spike insulin. They feed the wrong bacterial populations. They create an inflammatory response in the gut lining. And that inflammation, even low-grade, even temporary, sends a signal that tells your body to hold on to fat, not release it. This is why some people do everything right on paper: clean eating window, decent sleep, regular training, and still can't move the belly fat. The gut is fighting the process from the inside. Your first meal after a fast is a gut signal, not just a metabolic one. And eggs, fatty fish, a piece of avocado, they send a completely different signal than a smoothie bowl. So here's the practical version. And I want to keep this simple because simple is what actually gets implemented. When you're ready to break your fast, pause for 2 seconds before reaching for anything. One question: does this lead with fast carbs or sugar? If yes, later in the day. If no, you're good. Your first meal needs protein as the anchor. Eggs are the obvious one. Fatty fish works. Cottage cheese, plain Greek yogurt without honey or fruit, a handful of nuts, some avocado. Not exciting answers, but consistent ones. Give it 30 to 60 minutes before anything else. Let the first meal settle, then open the rest of your eating window normally. You're not keeping every meal perfectly optimized, you're protecting the first one, because the first meal is the hinge. Everything else follows from it. Fruit isn't the enemy. Oats aren't the enemy. You just need to give them the second shift, not the first. I put together a free fasting meal timing guide that maps out exactly what to eat, when to eat it, and what to avoid in each window. It's in the pinned comment. Takes 2 minutes to read, and it'll make everything we just covered a lot easier to put into practice. And if you're not subscribed yet, do it now. This is the kind of stuff I break down every single week. Most of the reason fasting doesn't work for people isn't the fasting itself. It's the 30-minute window right after it ends. You've already put in the hard part. You're already showing up. The discipline is there. What was missing was one small thing, and now you know what it is. One adjustment, made consistently, and the hours you're putting into fasting stop getting wasted. That's the Kong lifestyle. Not complicated, not perfect, just the right thing done at the right moment. This content is for informational purposes only. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional before making significant changes to your diet or eating patterns, especially if you have any existing health conditions.